following program is an encore presentation.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of Frankenstein.
Quite a good scene, isn't it?
Well, hello!
Oh. I thought I was alone. Good evening.
Well, we've warned you.
Hi, Patreons. Thank you for your support
And your patience.
and your patience. We're almost done talking about this. Not really.
Not really, no.
This is all we're going to talk about. We're going to do that Monkeys podcast? Can we do that as a bonus?
That's yeah, absolutely.
Then the Looney Tunes podcast?
Looney Tunes podcast will be here till the day we die. So enjoy. Stay tuned for the next part. May or may not reveal our number one pick.
There you go. All right, we're getting down to the last
We're
three.
getting down
It's
to the
just a
wire.
matter of what order.
Yeah.
I think.
I think. Pretty sure. So we're moving on.
I think so.
Number 3, released October 20th, 1932, directed by James Whale, The Old Dark House.
Same here.
Same here? Okay.
But I got to say, my last three could be in a different order, too. They're all great.
Well, this was
This movie isn't worse than the other two.
No, this was the hardest to decide.
Yeah.
And I changed it a little bit from what the website told me I preferred.
Okay.
So I rejiggered these three just a little bit.
Okay.
This is a fabulous film. I can't say enough about it. I adore this movie.
I think when I saw this film, when I saw this movie, I saw it on tape. I don't know. When I first saw it, I spent the next 10 years telling everybody that was my favorite movie ever.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite movies ever.
It was unavailable throughout our childhoods.
Yeah.
I finally tracked it down, and this was pre-internet, so I'm not even sure how I did this.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a hold of a guy in Baltimore who had had a 16 millimeter print or something.
Was it Curtis Harrington?
No, well, I wish. Who then, it was a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It looked like shit, sounded like shit, but I loved it.
Yeah.
This is a movie that you grew up seeing photos of in books and in Famous Monsters, written about as being, this great James Whale movie. James Whale is the first time I became aware of a film director.
Okay.
Someone directing a film, putting their
Interesting.
stamp on it.
Yeah.
Frankenstein was the first film that I had to know everything about him, and there wasn't much in the late 70s that you could find.
Right. That's interesting because I had a big build up to watching it too, and then what I saw was I saw it on VHS, so it wasn't as beat up as the one you saw. But then when I got the DVD, since we started doing this podcast, I've seen it on Blu-ray because I had the Blu-ray and you said, "Oh, you got to watch it," and I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch it. I don't want it to be too beautiful.
I
want
it
it
to
to
be the ghoul
maintain
over again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, in my story about the ghoul, that once I could see the ghoul, it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. This movie's gorgeous on Blu-ray, and then we of course went and saw it in the theater. And was that a digital? Do you remember?
Yeah, that was the
Digital
4K restoration that's on the Blu-ray. I think it's on both the U.S. and the British Blu-ray because, of course, we both have both of those.
We both have both. Yep. And I think I still have right next to it here's this one and there's these two.
Yep.
I still have my
I do
DVD
too.
because I think there might be one thing on there, the Curtis Harrington interview or something is unique to the
I don't
DVD.
know. I keep them all.
No
anyway.
hurry to throw that one away.
No.
Unlike this one, you can just let's chuck that. Mike, I have 2 copies of Mission Impossible.
I have 2 copies of season 1 of Mission Impossible for some reason.
Okay, well that's a different thing.
It's a whole different animal.
This movie is it exceeds expectations.
It does.
I worry about recommending it to people, and I worry about talking about it now because I would hate for someone to not like it.
Didn't you have that happen?
People to really.
Didn't you have that happen with a friend of yours?
No, I had the opposite. I've only ever had the opposite happen. Yeah, not this.
I thought
movie.
what
really?
was it? You
Or
recommended,
maybe it was.
you
Maybe
recommended it to a friend and they didn't like it, and I could not fathom why.
God, now you say that, maybe that is true.
Well, I know
and I can't
you
think
said
of what it was.
that you weren't expecting
Jackie
to
like
it. And
yeah,
she loved it.
Yeah, she stood up and was thrilled. I mean, she tolerates my enjoyment of these movies for the most part, but this one, I mean, it transcends that genre.
I
In
think
fact,
it does. It barely fits.
fits in the genre.
Yeah, I mean, it's funnier than it is scary or creepy.
Yeah.
A lot of the dialogue, most of the dialogue is actually verbatim from the book. The book has no sense of humor at all.
Okay.
Very dry read. It's hard to get through. I managed to get through it. Benighted. It's just the way that the twist put on it makes it funny.
Yeah.
The actors they got are perfect.
Ernest Thesiger in particular
Yes.
is perfect. He does everything perfectly. Whale brought him over to make this movie, right?
He did,
this is
yes.
where it starts for him.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like we could just recite everything that happens in this movie.
I could.
But
I've seen it.
Where he's
It's
banging the fork.
it's
Have
a
a potato, you know.
It's a film that I love a little bit more every time I see it.
Yeah.
And certainly seeing it at the Heights last year, and the fact that it was packed
Yeah, that was cool.
on like a Monday night.
Yeah, that was cool.
And the audience laughed at the right things.
Yeah, right.
That was very gratifying because you never know going into something like that. People are going to be all hip and cooler than the movie and deride
we've
it.
experienced that too.
Yeah, I have experienced that.
Yeah.
And deride it and laugh at
think
it for the
part of
wrong
it-
reasons.
Yeah, and part of it is this movie is so self-aware.
Yes.
And that matches up with what you're saying about the book too, which is Whale saw that
Yeah.
he could make that out of that.
Right.
Although who wrote the screenplay? I always say Whale, but somebody
it's
probably wrote the thing.
Ben W. Levy
Okay.
and R.C. Sheriff, who he worked with on.
Bride? No.
No, I
Invisible
think
Man?
Sheriff worked on Bride, but the war
Journey's
End.
Journey's End?
Yes.
Okay.
God.
What happened to you,
Yeah,
man?
I know. Well, we've been talking for 3 hours. It tends to take its toll.
Maybe we'll take a break after this one.
We're so close.
You were so close.
We're so close.
Yeah.
But I think, irregardless of who wrote it,
Yeah.
every film Whale made is a Whale film. It has that stamp on it.
Yeah.
You look at the shooting script for Frankenstein or The Invisible Man, they don't read as good as they play.
Right.
And that's all down to, it's down to the casting, but you don't get the casting without the director.
Yeah, true.
So it's a James Whale film is a James Whale film. And like I said, this is where I learned that a director can put a personal stamp on a thing, which is, when you're 8 or whatever, is quite a revelation.
Yeah. See, you said that before, and I thought I guess I didn't have that with this because I guess I had always knew that George Lucas made Star Wars. Like he was a big.
Well, yeah. See, you had that.
So that was where I learned that and it's really disappointing because James Whale is a great director and George Lucas is not.
Yeah.
He made 2 great movies and then a lot of weird things happened after that. But yeah, James Whale definitely his as you say his stamp on it. And this is an ensemble film too in a way
very much
that,
so. This could be done as a play.
Yeah, right.
Easily.
Right. So you've got
but
everybody stuck
it doesn't
in a
look
house.
like a photographed play though.
No,
it plays very
absolutely
much
not.
like a movie.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's vertical.
Yeah, again,
there's a
it's
verticality
vertical
to
set,
actual things that happen in it. So yeah, that would be tough to pull. I probably
I think you
wouldn't
still,
be that
you
tough to
still
pull it
could,
off, I
but-
guess. It's also got this whale otherworldliness that I think you don't get so much in Frankenstein, but you definitely get it in Bride, where you're like, okay, now we're in this movie and I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And Una O'Connor is the kind of thing we'll talk about in Bride.
Yeah.
But you got this movie where you take a woman and put some wispy whiskers on her, and
she's
she plays an
100-year-old man.
100-year-old man, completely. No one's fooled.
No, and I don't think anybody was supposed to be fooled.
Right.
Although she is listed as John in the
Yeah,
credits,
that's true. I forgot
which I
that.
think was a joke on his part. I think he was just
John
fucking around.
Dudgeon.
Yeah, and she's in Bride as well. So
Yeah, as a gypsy.
gypsy woman. Yeah.
Yep.
And wants her pepper and salt.
Pepper and salt. That's right. Pepper and salt.
Where's the pepper and salt? Yeah, well, Universal lost the rights to this in 1957. They
Okay.
contracted the story from J.B. Priestley, who wrote the novel, for 25 years, and they didn't renew it in 57. So it
Just forgot to renew it.
I don't know, whatever. It would have lapsed into public domain, but then in 1963, Hammer and William Castle did a remake,
Okay.
which,
I haven't seen it.
yeah, well.
Well,
If you look at it on its own, not as a remake of this film, not as a remake of the book or whatever, just on its own, it's not without its merits. I'm not saying it's good, but it has it's moments. The comedy is pretty ham-fisted, as is William Castle's wont. Looks good.
Okay.
The title sequence is by Charles Adams. You don't get much better than
That's
that.
pretty cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But as a result of that, then Universal didn't care about it. As far as they were concerned, it didn't exist anymore until Curtis Harrington, filmmaker who was a close friend of James Whale's, made it his mission to find this movie.
To actually physically
find it, because it was gone.
Gone.
Never part of the shock packages. Just didn't play on television till 1993.
Wow. So I seem to do this periodically, but I'll do it again and go talk about Doctor Who for a little bit.
All right.
The first 6 years of Doctor Who, like tons of it is still missing.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, what you have is people talking about something that maybe they saw as a kid, but it is missing.
Right.
So what happens is periodically these things will get recovered, or there was a novelization of it, or the audio exists for all these stories. So people have this picture in their mind, and then once it's recovered, there's the inevitable
Disappointment.
Oh, it wasn't as good as I remembered. And
Yeah.
so that's what I think about when I think about Curtis Harrington looking for this film.
Yeah.
Is I assume he's looking for a film that he loved.
Yeah.
And I mean, can you imagine if you're like telling everybody this movie's really great,
Yeah,
and then you find it and it's really
Really
great.
great,
Probably
yeah.
better than you remember.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's if they ever find, say, London After Midnight,
Yeah.
I think we're all going to be very disappointed.
Well, I don't think anybody's expectations are all
Not
that
anymore,
high.
because we've
like
all
that
seen,
movie works great as stills.
We've all seen Mark of the Vampire, so we kind of know
Well,
what
that's
to
true.
expect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. And I
But
guess
yeah.
by that point, people had seen the William Castle version of this one, so there's no way to way to beat that expectation.
Right. And one thing we haven't really talked about is Karloff's role in this.
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that, because we mentioned underutilized for Son of Frankenstein, but I think even more so here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although he does have more moments in this, and more moments that are noticeable in the on the Blu-ray than they were previously.
You think? Okay.
Little subtle things that he does, yeah.
Okay.
Facial things.
Yeah.
Certainly like when he's serving the dinner.
Yeah.
It looks like he'd be rather be doing anything else in the world but feeding these people.
Yeah.
That's great. The way he leers at Gloria Stewart.
Sure.
It's a little more.
I was thinking maybe the scene where he picks up Saul.
Oh, that's good too.
But that's good. Yeah.
And kind of sort of the fey way in which he carries him up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
It really works well. And here again, he looks huge.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Karloff was not a big man.
Because now the order is Frankenstein, the Mummy, then this?
No. This, then
This
the
and
Mummy.
then the Mummy. Yeah. He's a big old brute.
Yep.
He's a big, scary brute.
Yeah.
He's scary.
He is scary
We're
in
talking
this.
about this movie's more funny than it is scary and creepy, I think is the words you used,
Yeah.
because it struck me this movie is scary.
Well, I'm not saying
it's
really
creepy.
it's not. I'm not saying it's not, but I think the comedy is what plays better now.
Yeah. But it is really creepy.
But it is.
Like
It's a creepy house.
Like when you finally meet Saul.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah,
I mean, this
okay.
is a creepy dude.
He's not at all what you're expecting.
I think we could talk just about Saul. In fact,
Yeah.
one of my notes here is we could do this minute by minute.
Oh,
Easy.
absolutely.
That'd be a piece of cake.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could talk
Yeah.
about it second by second, maybe.
Yeah.
Frame by frame.
Yeah.
And that's kind of amazing too, because it's that same thing about your expectations. When you first are introduced to this family, you get Karloff at the door, and then Thesiger,
and then Eva Moore as Rebecca.
and you've got everything you need there.
Yeah.
So now you're going to start introducing more family members. It's like,
Well,
how are you going to do that? How are you going to top
They
this?
get progressively weirder as
But
you meet them.
yeah, they get progressively weirder. Saul is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I can't think of another character like that. I looked him up to try and see
Remember
if I'd
Wills?
seen him in anything else.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
recognize anything
Yeah.
else either.
So maybe he was just like that.
Oh,
I don't know. Like, he's so weird.
Well, you're expecting first time you see it, you have no idea. Horace Thesiger is so afraid of him, so afraid of
Yeah.
going anywhere near that room,
That's true.
that he creates these preposterous lies to get out of going up, even up to the same floor,
Yeah.
to get the lamp.
That's right.
That he will do anything.
Let's tell him we couldn't find it, or whatever he
Yeah,
says. Tell
yeah.
him we couldn't.
Is
or it
anything
was
he
broken.
He can do anything he can not to go up there. So you're not sure. The door is locked. from the outside. There's a half-eaten tray of food. Who knows how long that's been sitting there?
Yeah.
So, what is this guy? And then before he gets let out, they talk to the father, who refers to Saul as being a little crazy and wanting to burn the place down. And so you're like, God knows what kind of a raving lunatic this guy is going to be. When you finally meet him, he appears to be this meek little, afraid of all the rest of them, and oh no,
by the end he's
far
comes
worse.
Across as very dangerous.
They were justified in being afraid of him.
All over the place. He tells the guy he loves him. I love you. Actually, that is one thing that's weird about this film, is that somebody does fall in love in a really record short period of time, and it isn't Saul, but I think okay.
That's done.
I think that is a problem.
It's a little problematic, but I think the characters themselves are aware of it.
Yeah, that's true. They do reference it.
Melvin Douglas is great in everything.
Okay.
And his last film was Being There, so I think, pretty sure. He won the Oscar for it anyway.
Okay.
And he's always great. He's always...
this look on my face is, I didn't realize that was him, because I saw that. I haven't seen it in so long. That's got a Criterion around
it does,
here somewhere. Probably, I must have that. Oh, do I not have that? I must have. I must be out of order. Anyway. Yeah, so that helps. Yeah. In fact, that's another strength of this movie, is that everybody's great. I can't think who's not great.
There's not a weak link in the acting.
And in fact, you get everybody just keeps getting introduced. This movie, I don't know. You just keep meeting all these different people. You start with a couple, and then you realize another dude's in the car.
Third party in the back seat.
Yeah, and then they have to go to this house. It's just. And then we met this person, and then we met this person, and then these people come walking in the door. And then these other
people come in.
During dinner, they come in and they start...
They just explode. And
everything keeps exploding.
The looks on Thesiger and Rebecca Moore and Karloff's faces when they come in, the contempt and the, oh my God, these people are in our house.
Yes.
It's great. It's just great. And Lawton plays it so over the top on purpose with that broad Yorkshire accent and
I was doing it with my hands. He
shaking his coat and there's
to
water
get the rain
flying
off
everywhere. And no regard for the furniture or the people's houses. The house.
Yeah,
the house itself.
The first time I saw it, I did think it was a weak point, that I didn't care too much about the normal character, the normies, the people who weren't the Femme family. Yeah. And that the more I watch it, the more I find in that.
Well, I think certainly like Gloria Stewart and Raymond Massey they have their funny moments, but it's a different kind of funny.
That's true. They're not as those two in particular.
Yeah, they're not as broad. They're kind of our surrogate, I guess, in the film. Yeah. But they're funny in their own way, the way they bicker, and then later on when they're on...
Gloria Stewart's just great.
Oh, she's gorgeous. She's great. Yeah. She looks great in that slinky dress that Whale has.
That we've already talked about on Frankenstein.
Yeah. I mean, you can really see the details of it, too, on the Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. But they're sitting on the steps just after he has a fight with Morgan. This isn't a very... What is it? They say, this terrible house. Oh, it's not very good, is it? Or something like that. Yeah. They're sort of that droll
That's right.
English
I remember
couple.
that's a laugh line in the theater.
Yeah.
That's one of the... like you said, everything... Well, that's the other thing. When you're talking about people laughed in the right places, there's a lot of laughing in this movie. There's a lot of places.
A lot of that's funny, and I think that's why it failed on its initial release. It's far more sophisticated, I think, than people were expecting and were prepared for from quote this kind of film. Yeah, from a horror film, which is definitely what it was marketed as. You look at all the posters and things.
Definitely.
And Karloff being...
Well,
they're the green, Yeah. Karloff, as Karloff, first time on the posters.
In fact, is that supposed to be Karloff?
I don't know who that is.
Or that, for that matter. I don't know what the hell's going on in that thing.
They were looking at the original Kino DVD release, and the artwork is from
an original poster,
and it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It looks more like Dr. Caligari than anything.
I think it's fun to think that marketing people got handed this, although it isn't even that simple, is it? Like, that people just didn't get it.
I think that's exactly. Yeah. Nobody knew what to do with this. Nobody knew what to expect from this. Mm-hmm. I don't think Junior knew what to do with it when Whale finished it, but Whale was Whale. They let him do whatever he wanted, pretty much, and clearly the test of time has proven who was right. But yeah, this didn't do very well.
I guess. I don't know. I love this movie. This movie's so personal to me, I guess,
I think
that
so,
I wouldn't care if everyone hated it. If the entire world was marching to my house to eliminate the last existing copy of it, I would still love it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to love. I think it's...
Was it a hit even?
No.
I guess not.
No, not at all.
It must not have been.
No, not at all. One point too, that it's not on there anymore, but I think it was on the initial DVD, and it certainly was the VHS that I had. The producer's note at the very beginning. It was actually even before the little universal globe.
Oh yeah,
plane.
That wasn't on the VHS. Is that what you said?
It was on the VHS, the bootleg VHS I have.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was on the initial DVD.
Yeah, I think it was.
But it's not on the Blu-ray anymore, and it wasn't in the theater.
No, it was in the theater, wasn't it?
No.
I thought it was. Well, it's dumb.
It's dumb.
But it's fine. I don't
Here
care.
it is. Here it is.
Okay.
Karloff, the mad butler in this production, is the same Karloff who created the part of the mechanical monster in Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
We explain this to settle all disputes in advance, even though such disputes are a tribute to his great versatility. Idiotic. It's just
so dumb.
Yeah.
There's so many levels on which it's dumb. First of all, it sets it up as if you're going to watch a Boris Karloff movie.
Yeah, and not know that that's Boris Karloff.
No, I mean, this isn't a Boris
It's not
Karloff
a Boris Karloff movie. Yeah.
He's
part
probably
of the
least. It's probably the least Boris Karloff movie of anything we're going to talk about today.
It is, but yet it's our number 3.
Yeah.
So,
and he's not bad in it.
oh no, he's fine. He's great. He looks.
But we also talked about it. We didn't have a lot of ground rules for what we were picking. But I would say we would have allowed Scarface, right?
Oh,
Which
absolutely.
we barely in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually on my initial list, Scarface, Criminal Code. But he's in that much more, and
I haven't seen that one. I saw part of it.
That's like a dry run.
Targets.
Yeah, Targets. It's like a dry run for Frankenstein almost.
To be honest, the part in Targets didn't make me want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
It looked a little over the top.
It is.
But it shows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's a great movie.
Okay.
Criminal Code.
We'll probably talk about it in a few minutes when we do our wrap up of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also Charles Laughton's first Hollywood film. The Old
Yeah.
House.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there we go. That's what I got.
That's we covered all my notes.
Okay.
Although we kind of went all over the place.
Yeah,
I
we
noticed.
did. We did.
But we got it all.
You got everything?
It's all there.
You
It's
got
all
everything?
there.
All right, so
Yep.
we're going to move on to number 2.
Yep, we'll do your number 2. Now you told me you were flirting with the possibility of doing a tie for number 2.
I was, and you'll see why here in a second.
I see. Okay.
My number 2 was November 21st, 1931.
We have the exact same.
Was it? Okay.
Same top.
71 minutes. James Whale. Of course, Frankenstein. So yeah, the top.
Actually, our top three are all
exactly
James
the
Whale,
same,
and they're all they're all the same.
Exactly the same. And I wrote just for my notes. What more can I say?
That's true.
Since we've talked to this in
talked
great
about this
detail.
One. Yeah.
I don't want to add much more that we've already talked about because we haven't gotten to it yet.
I agree.
Where we're at.
We don't want to cover
film,
stuff we haven't talked about.
Yeah, where we're at in the film, in the podcast right now is, Karloff was just revealed. So I don't really want to go beyond that.
We've got the better part of a year to go before we stop talking about this one.
Yeah, so I think.
But I do have some stuff that I wanted to try and say about it, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
No, okay.
I could talk about this film all day. If I
that's
had
true.
To. And I have.
Clearly. Clearly, we have no problem talking about this one. I was just going to say, it's the one that started it all. This is what I wrote. This movie practically invented the genre, and it was the follow-up to another film in the genre. You know, it's not the first one. Dracula comes first.
It does, but
this is it, really. This is
where
it really starts.
Where it really starts. This is where they set out to make. I don't think the term horror film was used, but it is. I mean, it's the grand. I think Leonard Maltin in his movie guide calls it like the granddaddy of all monster movies, which it definitely is.
Yeah.
This created the vocabulary.
Partly because he's a monster.
Yeah.
Dracula now is considered a monster, but if he didn't have Frankenstein, you might not call him a monster. I guess you probably still would. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, this gets right what Dracula gets wrong.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah, it's true. And we'll have more to say about that too.
We will.
Actually, one of my notes in this is we've kind of covered this one.
Yeah,
but,
well, like I said, what more can I say? Yeah.
I do want to say again, because some of the things that I think might get lost. One of the things that might get lost in talking about it minute by minute is you might kind of forget that this film has no incidental music. I think
we talked about it initially.
We probably talk about it quite a bit, but when you're talking just sitting and watching the film all the way through. Yeah. It's really interesting that it has no incidental music, and it only works in favor of the film. And I've also noticed, what was I going to say here? Well, since we've talked about it minute by minute, that it's a really good movie. It is a really good movie. Basically. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. And there are many ways that this could have gone off the rails. We've kind of talked about that a lot about Robert Flory, or as I've heard that one commentary calls him Robert Flory. Yeah, that's showing off. Is his name. That's just showing off. Showing off.
It's like when David Manners says papier-mâché in The Black Cat. Who the hell are you trying to impress?
But all the way along, it seems to be James Whale guiding it in these decision points that make the movie better.
We've talked about how it comes down to Junior Lemley producing it, hiring James Whale to make it, James Whale tweaking the script to his liking, and casting the people that he cast, number one being Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Jack Pierce being on staff at the studio creating the makeup. It's all there.
It all works.
Everything, the universe converged, all the stars aligned, and this film happened.
Got a typo in my notes. It's confusing me. I was going to say, one remarkable thing about this is that we have gotten this far talking about it and have had no concerns about talking about it minute by minute, and we're only now to the point where the monster is introduced. Right. I think that's it can't be understated how and I don't know, it can't even be stated apparently because I can't figure out how to say it. How great that this movie is that
we can do that where there's several. What would be considered dry dialogue scenes, yet the feedback we got on a few of them is that we made it more interesting than the listeners thought they would be.
Well, I didn't mean to say that it's saying anything about us, but it's saying more about the movie.
I think that speaks to the
strength of the
film.
Exactly.
Not us in any.
Now let's stop talking about that fucking movie already.
We bumbled through it. So
enough Frankenstein already.
I never have to talk about it again.
So enough James Whale, Frankenstein, Karloff. Yeah. Now let's talk about
our number one
movie, which is something completely different.
Yeah, way off track. The Raven from 1935.
The Raven? You had The Raven too?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, see? No. Truth be told.
You won the coin flip.
Oh, I did.
You get to say. What, released in what?
It previewed April 19th and 20th of 1935, but it had its main release May 6th of 1935. Also from Universal Pictures, also directed by James Whale. Here's a shock. It's The Bride of Frankenstein.
Pretty good. Pretty good movie.
Yeah, it's right up there. It is, I think, if I did a list of my favorite Frankenstein films, my favorite Karloff films, my favorite James Whale films, favorite Universal horrors, this would be number one on all of those lists.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what?
It almost transcends. So when you say the favorite Universal films or whatever, when you put it in a pile, I go, well, it doesn't even belong in that pile.
No, it doesn't. But it is though.
And that's one of the things I love about Son of Frankenstein, and maybe why Son of Frankenstein doesn't make your list is it because it's trying to do something completely different. Because God help you, why would you try to do this again? Yeah, you can't. There's no reason to. No. And we're gonna see someone try, I guess, soon. Yeah. But you have reason to think that he might be a competent fella. He made Gods and Monsters.
Yeah. What's his name? Well, he's also made a couple Twilight films and Beauty and the Beast remake. Bill Condon.
Condon. Yeah.
No, I don't know if that's still going forward. Every time I look, it's something different.
Yeah. But I guess they did make one with Sting.
They did.
Is that any good? I watched it once.
I watched it recently, and
but this movie isn't even the Bride of Frankenstein. It's similar to Old Dark House in that every scene is like a movie to me. It's a piece of art.
So eagerly looking forward to when we start talking about it.
Yeah, we won't have any problem going minute by minute.
Such a richness to everything. in it that, we will never run out of things to say about it. And that's why I don't want to do too much
maybe we
now.
shouldn't talk about it now. That's
I don't
true.
want to do a whole lot now, and I didn't make a whole lot of notes because of that.
Well, I'll say this. Like Old Dark House, it's got Ernest Thesiger in it.
Well, which there again, I think elevates it.
Elevates it, absolutely. This makes a big difference. It's not like you're bored by the time he comes in.
No, not at all. But
it ramps it up when he gets there.
He brings the level of Ernest Thesiger-ness to it that is one of the many reasons why this floats to the top of everything.
And this is the first sequel in this cycle. There have been sequels before.
Yeah.
The Mabusa films had sequels, but this is
the first one.
This is the start of all of that.
Yeah.
Once this one gets out of the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't long before we have. A year later we have Dracula's daughter, and then it all goes on from there.
Yeah.
I do want to say the soundtrack is great.
Oh, the score is amazing. Yeah. See, this film, the score works in its favor. I think Frankenstein works in its favor without it.
Isn't that amazing in and of itself?
Yeah. And it shows
guys,
you how
same team putting this together.
Right, but it shows you just the difference in the tone and the approach
true.
that Whale brought to them.
And that's what we're going to talk about in season 2.
Season 2,
much. I'm sure it's going to be a recurring theme.
Exactly.
Is how much this movie isn't that first movie.
Right. Well, they tried to make this from early 1932 on, and Whale was not interested in it. They had scripts written. Flory wrote a treatment, which I've not read. I don't know if it's around anymore. It was The New Adventures of Frankenstein dash The Monster Lives ! And I don't think it's to anyone's surprise except Robert Flory that Universal had zero interest in this at all.
Yeah.
They did. I wonder if anybody even read it.
Yeah. With a title like that.
Get the fuck out of my office.
Out of my office. One thing, so I'm looking at my notes here and I'm thinking, maybe these are things that we're going to talk about in season 2. But the one thing I think is interesting is Gods and Monsters makes it seem as if Whale was aware that this was the film that he would be remembered for. And I hope that's true, but I don't really have any idea.
I don't know if that's true or not. I know he considered it. He's okay. I'll make this. Twist my arm. Fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have to have carte blanche.
Yeah.
And I think he probably knew this was the one and only time he would have that much leverage and do exactly what he wanted.
And why did he have that leverage? Because we just talked about how Old Dark House was a flop.
Invisible Man made a lot of money, and some of the other films that aren't genre films made money.
I guess Invisible Man was probably considered a great success in every way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's groundbreaking.
Technically, it's groundbreaking.
Yeah, that's spectacular now. It's fun to look at.
Yeah, and it's well told and everything holds up pretty well.
Una O'Connor is in it.
Well, and and they were so desperate to have the sequel made that okay, fine.
Yeah,
a guy named Thom Reed wrote the original script that became this, The Return of Frankenstein. And there are elements that are there, but like Pretorius isn't there. Things, once again, and we can't stress enough that Whale brought to it that made it special.
Yeah. And, I mean, and Whale bringing Thesiger to Old Dark House and then deciding to bring him further into Bride. I mean, I don't know. It's just so perfect. I'm just going to start crying at this point.
I know. Well, that's why I don't want to talk about it a whole lot because there's so much to say later. There's stories.
I'm glad it was both of our number ones. Yeah, it would be kind of weird if we were like,
odd.
Mine was, it's number 4.
It was okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I've read that Lugosi was originally considered as Pretorius or Claude Rains. I don't buy either of those.
Claude Rains would have brought something to it.
Claude Rains would have been pretty good, but it's got Thesiger all over it. It is so perfectly tailored to him. And I'm sure a lot of that came with the casting, that it was reworked a little bit to fit him. I can't imagine the film without him.
No. No, you can't imagine it, like you said, with Claude Rains. It would be fine.
It would be good.
But it wouldn't be a great movie.
It wouldn't have the wicked sense of humor. And I think both he and Whale being gay had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, this movie's really camp.
This really is,
gay.
yeah.
And
not in a bad way.
No, not at all. No, absolutely. Thank you.
Plays.
Yeah, I forget that term actually means bad. It
Camp?
still does. No, gay.
Gay,
People
yeah.
go, this movie's gay.
Yeah.
Or something's gay.
Yeah.
I think it's fallen out of favor, thankfully.
As
but
a
yes.
derogatory, yes.
Yeah, as a
Hopefully
derogatory.
Hopefully we're done with that.
Done with that. That'd be nice. But this movie has that in it as themes,
Yes.
and so having Pretorius be as camp, and he doesn't say he's gay, but he almost does.
Almost.
Well,
he's
is in its favor.
Yeah. In the dialogue, he says something about you have talking to Henry. You have other avenues
Yes, it is
available
in the
to
film.
you to create life.
Yeah.
I don't. So this is what I did.
That's true. Yeah, it does come across that way.
So again, I don't want to get into it too deeply because there's a whole lot to be said.
There's only one downside, and it's Valerie Hobson is no May
Mae
Clark.
Clark.
But even that doesn't matter.
Well,
And we'll talk about that.
I think her style fits the sort of operatic fairy tale quality
True.
to this more than Mae Clark would. Mae Clark works great in the more
That's true.
stark, I don't want to say realistic, but
More realistic.
more realistic world of Frankenstein. I don't think she would fit here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not
Niera.
that. See, people laughed at that, but not without good reason. And
Yeah.
I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it is pretty hilarious.
Maybe.
I don't know. And that's just, okay, she was 17, so she's
Yeah.
in over her head. I don't think she understood what was going on around her, really. So it's a little creepy when she's in bed with a 35-year-old Colin Clive, who's, 1 foot in the grave, literally.
Oh, man. Yeah, he doesn't have, he's not long for this world.
No, in a couple years, and he was gone. But
Yeah.
no, I've loved this movie ever since I saw it when I was a kid.
One of the things I think is interesting is like this. I have the Universal box set, all kinds of box sets you get, and it's always the same group. These are the movies that you have to buy now.
Yeah.
And it's Dracula, Frankenstein,
The Mummy,
the Mummy,
The Wolfman,
the Wolfman, the creature from the Black Lagoon,
and
the Phantom of the Opera, and Bride of Frankenstein. It's the
Frankenstein.
only sequel
that shows up in that. Yeah.
And when you look at even the box sets that are like the Frankenstein box set has commentary tracks on Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's it.
There's little documentaries made about Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. And that's it. And I find that very disappointing because I could do a commentary. Hell, I do a minute-by-minute podcast of these movies.
Yeah.
So I'm a
we could
weirdo.
easily do a commentary.
Sun and
yeah.
Ghost.
Yeah.
But Bride is considered. It's given that.
It's given a special place. Yeah.
Special place,
No other sequel
Right.
has.
Actually, that's an interesting point. It's a common thing to talk about. Is the sequel ever better than the original?
Well, this is considered
the examples
one of the,
are The Empire Strikes Back and The Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
Because people don't generally watch old Frankenstein.
Well, no, this is always
To me.
I see it in other
You have seen
outside
it
outside of genre context referred to as
that's interesting.
a rare sequel that's better than the original.
Yeah. And do you think that's true? Is it better than the original? Well, I guess you
Depends
just said it's number one.
It's hard to answer that.
Yeah.
I get asked a lot, like, "Oh, what's your favorite movie?"
Yeah,
but I don't
who
have an
cares?
answer for that.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Yeah.
That's what my.
I usually say the Texas
last-
Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh, that's a great movie.
I love that movie.
I'm not going to argue that.
Fun.
I would almost go to say that that's a better movie than the original.
Yeah, I see that.
I would almost say that.
I enjoy it more.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I would watch it more often. Yeah,
That's right. That was a quick tangent.
probably vilified for that, but I don't care. And Psycho 2 is better than Psycho.
Well, I think successful sequels. It's on a list of successful sequels that don't aspire to be better than the original. Godfather Part 2 is doing something different. Empire Strikes Back is doing something different.
yeah.
This movie definitely doing something different.
Yeah.
This movie might be doing something different than any other movie I've ever seen.
I think so. Here's
little
another
nuts.
example. I think, although this was an enormous success in 35 into 36, I think it was ahead of its time in many, many ways.
Yeah.
Very sophisticated use of humor with the horror. Very sophisticated in its use of religious iconography that skirted around the production code. A lot of which, I don't want to get into details, but it skirts around necrophilia.
This movie has a lot to say.
Very, very much so. Yeah.
And it's a horror romp. It works on every level.
It works on every level, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the humor works, the horror works, the monster talking, I think, works really well. Karloff didn't agree, but he watched the film, and he gets smarter as the film progresses, and I really like that, and I really regret that wasn't picked up later.
Yeah, and again, I still vote in favor of I'm happy they didn't, because
Well,
why do this again?
yeah,
Let it go.
You could never top this. No.
Yeah.
There's nobody. If Whale made the next
Think
one,
about
I
what
don't
you're
even
saying
think.
then. You're saying Ghost of Frankenstein would have been better if Lon Chaney was talking?
No, I think maybe Karloff would have stuck with it longer. Is
That could be.
possible, but no, I do not think that at all.
That would be bad enough, the 2 lines he does get.
Bummer.
Not even his voice. And
I'm
it's a
sorry.
mess.
I don't know how nobody saw that would not work in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman when it's that
we got
hilarious at the end of Ghost of Frankenstein. I laugh every time I see that.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's hilarious, and
I
not
guess
not in a good way.
maybe I've seen these movies too many times and I've given it too much thought. Clearly, right? 'Cause we're
Well,
sitting here.
obviously we.
But
yeah.
I'm just happy that I exist in the universe where it went this way, right?
I guess,
assume
yeah.
you subscribe to
Oh,
the
yeah.
theory, the string theory or whatever
Yeah.
of the multiverse,
Yeah.
where these things did happen. These decisions were made
Yeah.
somewhere in another universe. And the one I'm in has Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, where Bela Lugosi's mouth is moving and nothing's,
Nothing's
coming out. I am happy to be in that universe.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't enjoy or love those films.
Yeah.
I clearly do. I wouldn't
Yeah.
wouldn't have signed on for this. I just think dramatically it would have been more interesting. They probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be as fun and as watchable. They
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have gone on as long.
They might have sucked too, though, because,
Yeah.
Robert De Niro talks.
This is true.
I don't know.
Yeah, he does.
But you see, Christopher Lee doesn't.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, and he gives an effective performance.
Mhm.
Peter Boyle doesn't until the very end. He gives a great performance.
He does it both ways, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride of Frankenstein, number
Fucking
one.
great. Bride
Yeah.
of fucking Frankenstein.
Bride of fucking Frankenstein. Yeah, well,
have you ever seen the Beatles anthology documentary?
Oh, yeah.
I watched it. I've watched it too many times, and I just love when they're talking about the White Album. About should it have been just a single album, because there's a album worth of good songs on there and some
an
filler.
album worth of, yeah.
And Paul McCartney says, I don't buy in any of that. You know, I mean, it's just, and he doesn't swear, so I can't remember what he says. It's the bloody Beatles White Album. Shut up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's Bride of Frankenstein.
Shut up.
All right.
Okay, so next on the list of things to talk about, should we take a break?
No, I'm good. Let's
No.
finish it up.
All right.
We don't have a whole lot further to go, do we?
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all.
No.
Just a few minutes.
Yeah, let's go
the next thing to talk about is films that didn't make the list.
Yep.
So there's any number of ways we could do this. You have your actual list. We could start at number 11 and just do a quick.
Oh,
quick
well,
rundown.
they're not all numbered.
Yeah.
I'll just rattle them off.
You rattle yours off.
All right. I had, not making the list, Corridors of Blood.
Nice. Haven't seen it.
Haunted Strangler. They were made around the same time.
Don't even know that one.
It's a Criterion
Really?
issue with both of those, yeah. It's like a box set, and then there's like 2 sci-fi
Huh.
movies on it.
See?
Yeah.
Well.
Bedlam.
Yep.
Bedlam. See, and these are absolutely in no order, so don't attach any significance to how I had them.
Okay.
Mad Monster Party.
Oh,
animated.
that's something we were going to talk about. Yeah, because we did have a rule.
Yeah.
That it had to be feature films.
Well, that is a feature film,
Okay.
so that counts.
So you did put it in your list?
I had it initially, yes, because I love that movie.
Because there is one we didn't talk about.
Right, well, we'll
but
get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Comedy of Terrors, which we referenced a few times. Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah. Not obviously didn't make it very far, but
Yeah,
it was there initially because
Okay.
it's fun. It's
I-
Abbott and Costello.
I actually haven't seen the whole
Oh,
thing.
really?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
started to watch it. And,
It's interesting because it's truer to the character of Dr. Jekyll than any of the other Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde adaptions are.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because he uses Mr. Hyde as an excuse to do horrible things, whereas in every other adaptation he's this saintly.
Monster. Oh yeah.
He's saintly, and then
He turns into a monster. Yeah.
So this is a little truer to the
A little more Nutty Professor than, say, Nutty Professor remake.
Right. Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, Boris Karloff.
Yep.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which would have had a Frankenstein sequence in it initially. You've seen the photos of they actually did the makeup and costume and everything.
I just saw that photo recently. It's in one of the books.
It's in the Greg Mank book. It's Norman MacLeod, Jack Pearson, and Boris.
Yep.
For whatever reason, they either didn't shoot it or it was shot and cut out, which would have been interesting because it would have been in Technicolor.
Yeah, right.
Which would have settled all arguments about what color he was supposed to fucking be. So there.
Yeah.
Well, House of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein are there.
That's nice. Okay.
Yeah, they made the initial list. Tower of London.
Okay.
Charlie Chan at the Opera.
Haven't seen it.
No.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you get past again the
Yeah.
overt racism of it. It's, I mean, the Charlie Chans are pretty innocuous in that regard.
Yeah, he's the hero. That helps.
Yeah. The Walking Dead, no relation to the zombie movie or show rather.
Which one? No, I haven't seen that one either.
You've seen stills though. It's where he's got like the crew cut with the streaks going through.
Yeah,
it,
right.
and
Okay, that's right.
his hands up like that. Criminal Code.
Yep.
Dry run for Frankenstein basically, and I think it was what put him on the radar of David Lewis, who then put him on the radar of James Whale.
I was just reading an article today about how Karloff got the role in Frankenstein, and there's like 16 different stories about it.
Where did you see
my
that?
favorite is Classic Horror Film Board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes I just go there and click on the first thing. And, my favorite, of course, is Lugosi. I'm like, no.
Yeah, anybody still... That was actually on the IMDb recently, and I
really?
made him take it off
go.
because this is bullshit.
This is bullshit.
Yeah. What else? 5-star final?
So I should say mine are in order, and that's my number 11.
Is it? Okay.
I really liked that. I just watched that one recently.
Yeah.
I sort of was rooting for some of these movies to make it
To make your
the list. 5-star final was shocking.
He's
I
great.
I didn't expect anything about that movie.
Yeah.
And then it takes that turn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not. We're not going to talk about it minute by minute or anything,
No.
but it has a real interesting structure.
Yeah.
It's a type of movie that I've seen. It's a newspaper movie, and I know who
You
the
know
characters are, and
expect-
I know what's
yeah.
going on, and then boom,
Yep.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all. It's a really good indictment of the first part of the movie.
Yeah,
It's really, really well done.
Yeah, and it was one of my favorite lines. Edward G. Robinson is talking to Karloff, who plays sort of this creepy, defrocked priest.
Well, he's a reporter that's
But he's
pretending
a reporter,
to be
whatever. But
a priest.
But there's hints that he's got a shadier past than he has, and Edward G. Robinson says to him, "You're the most blasphemous thing I've ever seen," and I think that's great.
I didn't miss that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, what else? I didn't hear you say this one. The Invisible Ray. Didn't make
my top 30. I
top
guess.
30.
It's good. It's good. I like his performance in it. I like how he looks.
And I don't mind Lugosi in that one.
No,
which is
Lugosi's
nice
a
one.
little more holding back a little bit. So.
And he's playing the character that he's supposed to be
Yeah,
playing.
yeah. Which happens on occasion.
Every once in a while he can do that.
Yeah.
The other one, Bedlam, was one that I found of great interest because I started to watch Bedlam and I didn't like it.
Oh.
It opens up the first few minutes. I'm like, I don't like what this movie is. It's silly. I'm not enjoying what it's trying to do. And then in that one, kind of takes a turn pretty quickly.
Yeah.
They have that scene where the guy dies because he's painted
gold.
gold or silver.
Yeah.
And right at that moment, the movie kind of takes a turn, and then I really loved it after that.
Yeah.
I also have Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer Boris Karloff, which was a surprise to me because I thought, I hadn't watched these. I hadn't watched a lot of Abbott and Costello movies. I've only ever seen Meets Frankenstein, and I keep meaning to watch these other ones, but all I ever hear is, they're not as good as Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein.
Which is true.
Because that's a great fucking movie.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's I should have realized that doesn't mean they're bad.
It doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Yeah.
So I watched The Killer Boris Karloff. I'm like, this is funny. This is really funny.
I like that one because it's a little darker in tone than their usual stuff. There's some really black humor in that where they got
it's a lot of he's a
farting
killer
around with the corpses and the scene in the cave at the end is great.
The scene in the cave at the end.
In the caverns. Didn't that end?
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right. I was gonna say there's an extended scene where Karloff's trying to get Costello to kill himself. That's really great.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that your Jekyll and Hyde made it so high because I started to watch it. I got about 6 minutes into that. They do a musical number.
Oh well, that goes away quickly.
Quickly, okay. And I assumed I got the impression that they were mocking the suffragettes at first. And I was like,
no, not so much.
Not so. Yeah, I got to the point where they had stopped doing that, or I got the impression they weren't going to do that. Whatever.
Well,
But I still gave up.
the people mocking the suffragettes end up looking foolish. So
Okay. Well, anyways, I was
there's
going to
a
say
scene
the
in
main guy goes to jail with one of the suffragettes, and it seems like he's not in favor of them in the first scene, and then all of a sudden he is because he's trying to get on with her, and
really not what it's about.
That's not what's going on in that one.
There's a weird scene later on where Mr. Hyde chases them into a wax museum, and in the wax museum there are statues of Frankenstein and Dracula.
Nice. Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster?
Oh, Frankenstein's monster. What? Fuck you! Fuck you! I'm so sick of that.
It's all the same.
That's never going to go away.
Never going to go away. Mask of Fu Manchu, big surprise for me. I did not expect to like that as much as I did.
Okay.
Just based on the title, I just thought I'd never need to see this.
Did you
But
watch
I turned
it
it on, and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah,
I love that movie. We talked about it, right?
Yeah.
On my list also is The Ghoul, because it has Boris Karloff in it.
And Ernest Thesiger.
And it has Ernest Thesiger in it. And I've talked about it before. Once they found that beautiful print, that movie became worse.
Dead to you.
It's almost dead to me. Scarface is fun. It's a great gangster picture.
Yeah, Scarface got eked out just a little bit, but
The Raven is last on my list because it's not very good. Oh, and I didn't make it all the way through The Lost Patrol. Couldn't do it.
That was close.
It's all right.
It's okay. Karloff is often criticized for overacting or going over the top.
Yeah.
But I think it suits the character, certainly towards the end when they're all like going mad in the desert.
Didn't get that far.
Yeah.
Actually, here's what happened. We were watching it together. Jackie and I were watching a few of these together. We watched The Black Room together, shit like that. And it looked like the guy was going to have to kill his horse. And she said, I don't want to watch this movie anymore. Yeah. She'd already had enough. It wasn't what she'd expected anyway.
Yeah.
But like, what's funny is, so then I started watching it without her, and I realized, and they cut away, and you never see a horse again. Their horses disappear in the next scene. So maybe we'll go back and revisit that one. But I think she's seen enough Karloff to last her for a while. So we might be okay.
I can't imagine that there is such a thing, but okay.
Well,
Yeah.
She was disappointed in Scarface when he got killed. She's like, I thought you said this is a Boris Karloff movie. I'm like, well, technically it is.
He's in it.
He's in it.
He's billed like third or fourth or something.
Is he really?
Something like that. Yeah, he's pretty high billing.
Well, came out after Frankenstein, so I suppose.
Well, but I think it was. Yeah, he wasn't Karloff yet.
Another thing we agreed to do.
Yes.
Is to award a special honor.
Honorary mention or a special award, yes.
You want to go ahead?
Well, we've referenced it a few times already.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that is very dear to us from our childhood, and I still have to watch it every year, which is, of course, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yes.
Directed by Chuck Jones, 1966. Karloff narrates and does the voice of the Grinch.
Not something to be breezed past, in my opinion. Directed by Chuck Jones.
No, not at all. Absolutely not at all.
If anybody doesn't know who that is, and it's perfectly okay if you don't, he directed every Bugs Bunny or every Looney Tunes cartoon that you love.
That's great.
I shouldn't say every, but
he directed
most of them.
Most of the good ones.
Most of the great ones.
Yeah.
He's
the preeminent Looney Tunes Warner Brothers director.
Duck Amuck.
There's another example of learning what a director does in a cartoon.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because you would see it directed by how do you direct a cartoon?
Right.
And as you delve deeper in it and see the differences between, say, a Friz Freeling or God help you, a Robert McKimson, they're not good. Again, these float to the top because they are just that good. What's Opera Doc is Duck Amuck. Yeah, these are amazing cartoons. One Froggy Evening. You don't get better than those.
And it's someone looking at the state of the world and saying, what can I do now? I'll do something that it doesn't seem like you should be able to do. Duck Amuck shouldn't, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't make What's Opera Doc.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, now you can do these things.
You've changed,
that seems to me like you changed the world.
You've changed the world a little bit, yeah.
And he did it in the 30s, or those movies are from the 40s, I guess?
40s, yeah.
It's amazing. Just amazing.
Yep.
Anyways, we were talking about the Grinch.
But it's
that's
a
the
suitable
artist that's doing
suitable sidetrack because that the artistry behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book to begin with, but the animated version elevates it just that much further.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Seuss had a hand in the making of it too because he was friends with Chuck Jones and they'd worked together before, so that helped. But
yeah, so you got Dr. Seuss, Chuck Jones, and Boris Karloff, whose contribution is not to be understated because he does everything. He does every voice except the song.
The song and Cindy Lou Who.
Oh, he doesn't do Cindy Lou Who?
No, that's June Foray.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'm disappointed. I didn't know he didn't do Cindy Lou Who. Yeah, I
You
guess
thought
that
was
makes
him?
sense. No, I didn't. When you say that,
Santa?
yeah, I didn't watch that in preparation for this, so I'd kind of forgotten. But that's not much.
No.
He does the voices.
He does the narrator. He narrates it and then does the voice of the Grinch, basically.
Right. And I don't dislike the Jim Carrey movie of
Oh,
the Grinch.
really? Because I absolutely despise it.
Yep, I had a feeling. But one of the things that's great about it is that he's doing Karloff.
He is doing Karloff, yeah.
Because that's what the Grinch is.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the new one. This with
No, I haven't seen that one either.
Benedict Cumberbatch, and I really have no desire.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Ah! So there you go. Special award for the Grinch.
Up until recently, I thought, well, that's an odd choice to have Karloff narrate it. He's so perfect, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's so perfect at doing it. And I come to find out it's not such an odd choice because he had narrated a ton of records for children. He'd done like some Rudyard Kipling and some other stories.
I think you can still get
You can still get some of those,
Yeah.
And it was only within the last 4 or 5 years that I found that out.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that far out of left field anyway. But he's got it's such a perfect combination, such a perfect marriage. And when I used to read that book to my kids nightly for years, to the point where I had it memorized, and I probably, if pressed, probably could still do it. But you have to do it with the inflection that Karloff does.
I suppose
it's
you do.
the only way to do it anymore.
Yep.
It's just so
And June
ingrained.
Foray.
And June Foray. And Thurl Ravenscroft, who did the singing.
The song.
Yeah.
But that's not in the book.
That is not in the book. No, the book is well, one of the problems I have when they make these into feature films is they had to pad it a little bit to make it into a 22-minute television thing. When you're making 90-plus minute movie, that's stretching that material awfully thin.
Basically, the fact that movie exists offends me on such a basic level.
The Jim Carrey one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That once I sit and watch it, I go, oh, this isn't that bad, which makes it okay. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, this is the most unnecessary thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
So let's see how they did it, and
Yeah.
it's okay. It's a Ron Howard film. Like Ron Howard doesn't make a movie you hate. It's just that he can't.
Well, okay.
Not that you love either, usually. But
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, generally.
Sometimes.
They actually made a joke about that in the. They just dropped the last half of season 5 of Arrested Development. A couple weeks ago, and they make a joke about that. Yeah, him needing a hit or something, and it was pretty funny. But
some people are crediting him with destroying Star Wars.
Yeah,
so that's a pretty big
that's
deal.
Pretty harsh.
Really harsh. I love that movie.
Yeah,
it's
I thought
great.
it was absolutely
another thing that didn't need to exist.
absolutely
and offended
unnecessary
me on some level.
Yeah,
so
but,
it was
but
great.
I was my expectations were so low going into that.
So
low. That it couldn't help but like it.
Yep.
Well, I was going to say, the thing that bothered me the most about the film Grinch is that they totally subverted the message.
Agreed.
It took Dr. Seuss's wonderful little message and turned it upside down. They made the Who's these greedy, self-absorbed, materialistic, which is the exact opposite of what the book is all about.
And like you say, I guess they had to do something because they had to
They had
pad
to
it out.
pad it out for feature film and yeah.
Yeah. I guess we don't want to talk about that too much.
No, we don't want to get too far into it. But anyway.
I actually do think it makes sense to do that because then when the Grinch has his turn, he's the hero. In the cartoon, he's the hero, but not for any good reason, really.
Yeah, because he was a total dick.
Yeah.
And decided not to be. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was something I remember people would say about Return of the Jedi, too. Darth Vader's the hero. Well, I mean, he was Hitler 20 minutes ago.
In a sense, yeah.
Blew up Alderaan.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's kind
nothing.
of a dick move.
Kind of a dick move. That's fantastic. Blowing up Alderaan is a dick move.
There we go. Well, there we are. That was.
That's the list.
That's the list.
I don't know. Do you want me to? I have one.
Hey,
other thing that I
yeah.
brought,
Let's
but
close with this.
We can close with this.
Where did you find this?
So all this is, I made it sound like I found something significant. I just printed out the top-rated movies that have Boris Karloff in them off of the IMDb.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. So, now that I'm looking at it, maybe we will cut this part. We'll see if it's any good, because I guess I was going to count up from 50, but as fast as possible to see if you've even heard of some of these.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Number 50, The Guilty Generation.
Heard of it, never seen it.
The Man Who Lived Again.
Yep, seen it, not good.
The Man with 9 Lives.
Seen it, not good.
The Invisible Ray.
Oh, really? That's that low? Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of movies on here.
All right.
Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mad Monster Party. You said that was...
I enjoy that.
Almost made your list. I like that one.
Yeah.
The Raven is on your list. 1963.
Really? It's that? It's
yeah,
lower
it's
than the
44.
other. Lower than the other Raven? Really? It's those Lugosi freaks.
I'm afraid so. Let's hit my mic there.
It's the Lugosi freaks.
That's the Lugosi freaks. Omar the Tent Maker from 1922. Yep. The Vanishing Legion.
Nope.
The Miracle Man.
Oh, that's a silent film, I believe. Yeah.
1932.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
The House of Rothschild.
Yeah. Well.
What? Not good.
No, it's just a costume drama. It's.
The Walking Dead,
yeah.
we've talked about. 2 Arabian Nights.
Nope.
Tower of London,
yeah.
Comedy of Terrors.
Okay.
Tap Roots.
Taproots, he plays an Indian. He's like, someone you've heard of.
Great.
It's not bad. It's
really?
it's all right. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's on this list.
Yeah.
The Deadlier Sex, 1920, probably saw it.
No.
The Bad One, 1930.
Nope.
The Emperor's Nightingale.
I think he just narrates it. It's like, yeah.
The Man They Could Not Hang.
That's pretty good.
The Last of the Mohicans, 1920.
No, I haven't seen it.
Smart Money, 1931.
Nope.
This is going about the way I thought.
Yeah, this is playing out.
The Lost Patrol.
This might end up on the cutting room floor.
Bedlam.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Night World.
Night World.
1932.
Yeah, I think it's a gangster thing.
Old Ironsides, 1926.
Okay, fine.
The Black Room.
Yeah.
The Criminal Code. Lured.
Lured.
Yeah, I think it might have
Lured.
I think that might be the one that has
why
Lucille Ball in it.
Sounds familiar.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Okay.
The Greater Glory, 1926. Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. Boris Karloff is the 19th highest rated
really
Karloff film. The Raven is higher than that at number 18.
The Raven from 35.
The Raven 35. Unconquered.
Yeah. No, I'm familiar with it. I'm trying to place it, but go ahead.
The Black Cat, the good one, obviously.
The good one.
The Devil's Chaplain, 1929.
Duh.
Is the number 15 highest. Bizarre.
Really?
Skyscraper Souls.
Yeah. It's
good.
again. He's a bit player in it, or.
Son of Frankenstein, Old Dark House,
Okay.
Black Sabbath, The Mummy, 5-Star Final, The Body Snatcher, Target's Charlie Chan at the Opera, Tonight or Never, which is about an opera singer, and I guess he must just be in it.
I don't know.
Scarface, number 4 highest rated.
Really? Okay.
Bride of Frankenstein, number 3. Number 2, Frankenstein.
Okay.
And coming in at number
Number
1, the
Coming
number
in at
one
number one.
Boris Karloff film, The General, uncredited, unsubstantiated, complete bullshit. He apparently, they say he's it's unconfirmed.
Oh no, yeah, there's a guy that looks like him.
Yeah, so
it's so totally not him.
Honestly, that was kind of the reason I printed
There
this
we
list.
go.
Is I
Okay,
thought,
that's perfect.
How fucking stupid is that?
That's perfect. It at first glance,
you think
like,
it's
that
him?
guy looks a little bit like Karloff.
So I've only seen that movie a dozen times. So tell me what you're talking about.
They're sitting around a table, and he's underneath the tablecloth.
Yeah.
The guy's got the cigar. I think it's the guy with the cigar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
okay. We'll
it's vaguely one thing, and I don't know why I hadn't written it down. Black Sabbath was technically my number 11. I think I missed it.
Okay.
In going over my honorable mentions.
I couldn't find it anywhere, and
Really?
so I finally bought it, and I couldn't find it illicitly, and but I didn't get around to watching it. So
well, it's one of those omnibus things where there's 3 or 4 stories. He narrates or introduces each one. It's kind of like
I watched the first
kind of like Thriller, where he's
minutes.
just on a soundstage,
Yeah.
But he's in the 3rd one, and it's really good.
Okay.
You will do yourself a favor by watching that.
Good to know.
And
Am I
I'm
just
sorry,
smacking this thing with
Yeah, we're in the red zone.
We're in the red zone. So there you go.
There we go. That's our top 10. Feel free to submit your own wherever you
To patreon.com, I guess.
Patreon.com. Submit your own or
tweet it to us, or
argue with
Instagram us.
or Facebook us, or whatever, while those things are still around.
It's true. All right.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll do another one of these someday.